Information about the site and setting of your tree of interest is important and has already been referenced a number of times in the 2 previous videos. This video will look at investigating the link between this and how site factors, environmental factors and management can impact on the condition of a tree. These factors should always be considered when investigating the poor condition of a tree, as they are common culprits.
I'm standing in front of this small stand of Jeffreys pine, and there's some really interesting symptoms on this tree. As you look high up into the crown, you can see the foliage is generally green, but as you come down the main stem and look at the lower branches, we can start seeing some quite interesting symptoms. So the youngest needles at the end of the stem are quite green, but behind it there's some browner needles, but also all the needles behind that have been lost. So what might be the cause of that? Could that be an environmental problem, or could it be a cultural problem, or could it be a pest or disease? It's really helpful if you start walking back so you get a much clearer view of the crown of the tree. It's now starting to become much clearer. So as I look at these 2 trees here, the one on the right has got a much healthier set of needles at the head of the tree, and as you go down you can see the discoloration and thinness of the crown. The tree on the left is much thinner and you can see those brown needles. The health of a tree is influenced by both environmental and cultural conditions, such as light, temperature, water and nutrients, that are all essential ingredients for photosynthesis and energy production for a tree's growth and reproduction. If any of the factors are limited, then the tree may struggle to grow and be described as stressed. The symptoms of stress will include leaf yellowing, wilting, dieback and thinness of the crown, and a general overall lack of vigour or vitality, commonly described as the tree being in poor condition. Other causes of stress may include the harmful effects of animals and man. Small mammals such as grey squirrels or rabbits may feed on the bark, causing wounds that not only damage the sapwood responsible for transporting water and sugars, but also creating wounds assisting in the entrance of pests and diseases. Humans may also cause stress to trees in the way that we grow them and the way that we manage them. Selecting the right tree for the right growing environment is a key part of good woodland management. For example, the emerald ash borer that is native to China and recently introduced to North America prefers and seeks out trees in poor conditions. The adults will lay their eggs on stressed trees and once hatched will spread further in a stand of stressed trees as they seek out enough healthy foliage to feed on.
Wounds can occur in many ways and damage the bark, the protective outer layer of the tree, which is much like our skin. When there is a break in the bark, exposure of the underlying sapwood and heartwood makes trees vulnerable to pests and diseases or decay. These secondary infections can get to the heartwood of the tree and decrease its structural integrity. This makes it very susceptible to extreme weather, such as wind, which can cause the tree to fall without warning. Where you find your tree is important, as different environment types can put different types of stress onto a tree. For example, a street tree has to battle pollution, compaction and root restriction due to pavements and roadways. They also often undergo arboricultural work, such as pruning, to ensure that the trees do not block light into people's houses and gardens, and branch removal in cases where public safety is at risk. In contrast, trees in woodland face their own pressures. In densely populated stands, light can be restricted at the lower levels, stifling growth and weakening them and making them more prone to pests and diseases. Dense stands, which haven't been thinned, result in very humid and damp conditions, which again may favour some pathogens. These unmanaged areas can also suffer from invasive plants. With no one to cut back and remove these species, they can spread quickly, providing significant problems for our native trees. Trees are hardy things and can grow in the most unlikely of places. The aspect of a slope can greatly affect the condition of a tree. Those growing on steep slopes, for example, may be vulnerable to root problems such as water and nutrient availability. Those that are in an exposed position may be more vulnerable to damage by strong winds, cold weather and sun bleaching, all of which can cause stress for the tree. You will often find trees growing in obscure places, like out of cracks in cement, out of walls and on small islands in the middle of waterways, such as rivers or reservoirs. However, just because they have managed to grow there does not mean that the conditions are right. For example, in an area where there is only a small amount of soil, this will limit the growth and condition of the tree, which could be confused with a harmful pest and disease.
Similarly, soil type can have a big impact on a tree. Much like humans, trees have various dietary needs to sustain a good condition. Deficiency in key nutrients and changes in soil pH can affect the condition of the tree and can cause symptoms that can be misconstrued as pest or disease damage. For example, this picture shows a parking lot island in the US which has soil with a high pH leading to nutrient deficiency, in this case particularly iron. Soil compaction can occur in areas which are frequently walked over or driven over, such as paths and roads. Soil compaction reduces the pore space within the soil, resulting in pore structure that restricts the development of plant roots. It also affects the soil water status, causing waterlogging during wetter periods and drought conditions during drier periods. All of these in turn limit root development. Waterlogging often causes yellow leaves, root rot and dieback, which again can be confused with the pest and disease problem. Soil condition can sometimes change suddenly. In cases of extreme weather, the tree may suffer from drought or become waterlogged. Both can have severe implications for a tree that is unable to adapt quickly to dramatic changes. This image shows drought damage on a pine tree. This could easily be confused with damage caused by pathogens, including Dothystroma needle blight. Despite being hardy, extreme weather and temperatures outside of what is usual puts additional stress on a tree. As mentioned above, this can include flooding and drought, but also extends to periods of snow, frosts, particularly if the frosts are late in the year, hail, heat, fire and lightning. All of these can take their toll on a tree. Similarly, high winds or storms can damage a tree, creating wounds due to the branch tears, which are then susceptible to infection from harmful bacteria and fungi. Similarly, sea spray can affect the foliage of trees in coastal areas too. Environmental factors which cause stress can also include the impacts of people and how we manage weather events. Rock salt, or sodium chloride, is the most popular and cheapest treatment used to grit our roads in the winter. When the ice or snow melts, the toxic runoff can easily seep into the soil, which can then starve the trees of moisture, eventually killing them. Human activity can also change the environment, and so it is no surprise that it is often the cause of poor condition in trees. Sometimes, sadly, this is due to purposeful damage, when branches are snapped off or fires are lit near to the trees. However, more often than not, the damage is a byproduct of good intentions. Herbicides and pesticides are used to help promote plant growth and protect crops from damage by harmful weeds, pests and diseases. However, as these chemicals are often sprayed, they then spread and find their way into places they are not needed. Similarly, machine mowers, strimmers, tractors, vehicles, etc. can all cause damage. They can create wounds to bark, stems and expose roots, which in turn can be infected by harmful bacteria and fungi. Other human activities such as landscaping and trenching, soil movement and compaction, as previously discussed, can all cause stress for a tree. We are, of course, not the only ones to damage trees. Animals may also damage them. Rabbits, deer, squirrels, dormice, sheep and cattle are all known to cause damage, either by killing saplings or by eating or damaging the bark or by creating wounds that help pests and diseases or decay fungi gain access. This image shows damage from a rabbit. The tree guard is attempting to stop further feeding damage being done as the young trees establish. In this module, we've seen the importance of environmental factors on the health or condition of a tree. Both where the tree is growing and the type of soil can make a big difference. The interaction of animals and man on the environment, both directly and indirectly, will affect stress levels of the tree. These may cause symptoms such as wilting or crown dieback that may look similar to those caused by pests and diseases. Therefore, gathering evidence about the environment that a tree is growing in is an important part of the diagnostic process.